Howdy there, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Skewsday to you. It is September 13th, 2022. I'm Trae Crowder, back again, and that is Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? Lots to talk about today. We're talking a lot today about public mourning when it comes
Mhm.
to 9/11 and the Queen. And I do want to say that Ken Starr died today, or it came out that he died today, that he has died. And for younger viewers, if
Right.
we have any, you might
Yeah.
Ken Starr was the guy who the special prosecutor who tried to take down the Clintons in the 90s over Whitewater, ended up exposing the Clinton Lewinsky scandal,
Yeah.
and then went on to be president of Baylor University, where he covered up a bunch of sexual assaults by the football team. So I will say that he will not be getting much public mourning. That dude
Yeah,
sucks.
I didn't obviously, I remember all that, when I was a kid, huge deal, obviously, and I knew he was the guy, but I didn't really know anything about him until I watched, the American Crime Story about all that when Dan Backendall, right, played
Hmm.
Ken
Yeah.
Starr, and I love Dan Backendall, and it's like, but anyway, if that portrayal is pretty accurate, then yeah, he didn't seem like the raddest of dudes to me. Oh, Ken Starr, bit of a stick in the mud, I would say.
Yeah. But he got to die peacefully and of natural causes at the age of 76. So he had a good run. A guy who didn't get a good run, I want to talk about, is this Vegas journalist by the name of Jeff German, who got murdered by a guy he was writing about last week. And this case is absolutely wild. You been following it all, Trey?
No.
So this guy was like an investigative reporter. He had written a bunch of pieces about, it's Vegas, so the mafia and those militia movements and Proud Boys and shit that that are not the Proud Boys so much, but like the Bundys and stuff that are active around Nevada and a bunch of the Western, more libertarian states. And he ended up getting murdered by a county public administrator by the name of Robert Tallis, allegedly. He hasn't been convicted yet, I should say that, but they got him pretty dead to rights. This guy he's a county public administrator, which means he oversaw a small county office that literally had 8 people working in it, I think, who they oversee like the dispensing of like estates if you don't have a will. It's not like, but the guy apparently had a toxic work environment and was sleeping with somebody who worked for him. And Jeff German outed him for this, and he lost a primary to a woman who worked in his office. Again, like 8 people worked there, so that it must have been a fun election.
Yeah.
So Tellis went to his house and stabbed him to death. They got caught because reporters went to his house to ask him about, because there were more stories about to come out, just to ask him how he felt about all of it, and noticed that his car matched the description of a car found fleeing the scene. They had him on surveillance tape at the scene. When cops searched his house, they found a weird hat and yellow orange vest he was wearing when he committed the murder in his backyard. He tried to destroy him by cutting them up. He had 4 days, and that's as far as he'd gotten. And yet, after he got arrested, when he went back to his house, reporters were waiting there to question him about it. And he was wearing, like when Dexter cleaned up a crime scene, he'd be wearing a plastic suit. He was wearing that at the
No.
fucking trial. Yes.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
He had the official murderer uniform on when
Yes.
they went to
Yes.
question him about a murder of one of his public nemesis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like that guy
It's,
should have thought that through a little bit more. Also, I definitely thought this was going in a more mafia-y direction when you first started talking about the guy, just a low-level county administrator getting an affair outed.
yeah.
Doesn't typically take that particular turn. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and it's like sort of makes me as a former but terrible newspaper reporter at a time when local news is dying in America, and you're gonna see so much more corruption locally because no one, like we uncovered stuff like my colleagues would be like sitting in a city council meeting, and it's like 11:30 at night. They're done with all the regular business, and all of a sudden something will pop up that wasn't on the agenda, where a city council person tries to like sell a sweetheart piece of land that belongs to the city to one of their big, supporters or business allies or whatever. And no one would know about that if someone wasn't paid to sit there through the meeting. And then you have this guy as an investigative reporter who's done some vital public interest stuff. Like if this guy's sleeping with his underlings on the city dime and running a toxic work environment. He's like yelling at people for like what they wore to the office and shit and stuff. This is like public business.
Why aren't you wearing your murder suit? You know,
Yeah.
we only wear murder suits in this particular office, damn it. What's this
Yeah.
shirt and tie bullshit you're doing?
It's casual murder suit Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, what's weird
Yeah.
about this is that even though this happened in Vegas, it has not stayed in Vegas. Here we are talking about it on the internet. Weird.
This is true.
I didn't think that was supposed to be possible. Anyway, let's get into the show. With us, as always, is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. I, of course, will remind you of a couple of things real quick. Number one, if you'd like to see me perform live, you can go to TraeCrowder.com and get some tickets. Just add a bunch of dates this fall and into 2023. Some of those are solo shows. Some of them are full, well-read shows with me, Corey, and Drew. They are indicated accordingly. And either way, I hope you'll come and see me. Go to TraeCrowder.com and get your tickets. Number two, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We're going to record one later this week. We're having fun with it. So to check it out, go to weeklyskews.com/more or just go on Patreon and look me up. Either way works. Sign up on there, get some more skews in your life. Okay. As for the show tonight, we're going to check in on the war in Ukraine, see how it's going. Is the tide turning? How's old Putin handling it all? We'll find out a little later. Also, look into America's evolving relationship with 9/11 all these years later, as well as getting into Lindsey Graham's controversial new abortion gambit. All that and more on tonight's Skews. But first, of course, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic. Tonight's DD, the Queen, for dying before she had one last opportunity to party down with her bestie on this side of the pond. That's right. Play the clip, Matt. Oh, it's muted. Uh-oh. Okay. We'll just see.
I think we got to turn the sound out. So, yeah, that was a
share the sound, Matt. You know how it works. There's a little box down there. Just share sound. Click that.
Here we go.
Nail the toast. Joe Biden famously said the Queen reminded him of his mother, which I guess is a compliment. He visited the British Embassy in Washington this afternoon to sign her condolence book. But few presidents enjoyed their trip to Buckingham Palace more than Trump, who fell in love with the pomp and circumstance, of course. And there are some people who say that the Queen never had a better time.
There are those that say they have never seen the Queen have a better time, a more animated time. We had a period where we were talking solid straight. I didn't even know who the other people at the table were. Never spoke to them. We just had a great time together.
Are you going to keep?
I love the whole, like, there are some who say that she really, really dug Donald Trump. And then, like, the proof or evidence is a clip of Donald Trump saying, yeah, some people say that I really hit for her and she had a great time. I'm sure he did love all that, like, royalty shit, though. He's like, I should be a king. I don't know why I'm not a king. I need to look into being a king. I like this whole throne shit you got going on.
I mean, it's halfway there. It's got a bunch of dipshit kids who act like they're inbred. So there you go. This must be like a weird moment for Biden, who, of course, is very into his Irish heritage. And we'll talk about Irish people in a minute because they've been having a blast this past week since the Queen died. But, everyone has responded to the Queen dying by becoming the least normal person on the planet. It's not just Trump who tried to be like, oh, well, in high school when somebody dies and all of a sudden everybody was their best friends, they get out of school and go to their funeral. Trump did that. British people, man, there was a lady who she had a tweet go viral because she posted how upset and disappointed she was because there's the day the Queen died, her son went to the bathroom to jerk off. She just said that.
Jesus.
And then followed up with, he says he just had a case of IBS, but I don't really believe him. It's like, can you imagine you're that kid?
No.
And first of all, I was a teen boy. I tell you that not even my own death would have kept me from jerking.
Right, sure. But also, so his mom's just standing outside the door screaming. I'm like, stop playing with yourself. The Queen is dead. How dare you?
Trae,
oh, man, that's a fucking nightmare right there.
They have a grocery store chain, I guess, called Morrison's. And to honor the Queen, they turned off the beep with their self-checkout. So it caused a bunch of lines back up because people thought their groceries weren't scanned. And so somebody was like, what happens? Oh, in honor of the Queen, we've turned off the beeps. Like, what the fuck?
Dude, so I can't get into it in too much detail because I don't remember it all because we recorded it so long ago. But Corey, our frequent guest host, Corey Forrester, he covered this thing on our podcast, putting on airs. I think it's called Operation London Bridge, I think, or something like that. And it's this very elaborate plan they've had for years for what happens when the Queen dies. And it's wild. Like it's like a 12-day period of mourning officially. And it's like the BBC and all that shit can only show like Queen related stuff for that time. And there's all these rules about no jubilance in public or whatever and stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's a whole thing up to and including turning down the beeps at the grocery store, I guess.
Turning down the beeps. They did. It wasn't Operation London. It apparently had a bunch of different plans with military names for contingencies for she died, and I forget which one they actually had to use because she died in Scotland, which I guess triggered another one because they had to they did like an OJ White Bronco chase where the cameras followed her casket from their castle to Edinburgh to all the way to London. They're going to spend last number I saw $3.5 billion on her funeral celebration, and this is at a time when England is about to face a heating crisis where people might not be able to heat their houses this fall, but this is because of the war in Ukraine and also Brexit and a bunch of other shit they fucked up. And they're having a food cost crisis. They're going to spend $3.5 billion having a funeral for a 96-year-old lady who died in her own bed of old age. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering what you thought about. I've seen some people speculating. I guess and it's only at 20-something%, or as of the most recent poll, but there was growing support for the idea of abolishing the monarchy. And I've seen people speculating that the Queen was the Queen not being there anymore, and now it being Charles, and it could be a real crossroads or watershed moment for the monarchy, because the Queen for so many years was just she's a sweet little old lady who's also an imperialist monster or whatever, but mostly she's a mama who likes cows, you know what I mean, and wears cute hats, and so it's sort of insulated that movement in some ways for a long time. And now people are now that it's a king, because dude, even me, I don't like King of England. I don't like it. Makes me want to throw a bunch of tea off a boat, Mark. I don't like it. I bet France don't like it. King of England it just don't sound right. So, I'm wondering if they'll be changing tides in the coming years for
no one likes Charles, so I imagine that could speed up that movement a little bit. But look, I didn't realize how. I guess I knew, but I didn't realize how much people. There a certain contingent of British. I know it's not everybody, but a certain contingent of the British just fucking love the monarchy. For whatever reason, and are absolutely insane about it. The grocery store thing wasn't even the weirdest tribute. They closed bike racks, Trae. They closed bike racks. You cannot put your bike in a rack.
None of that Dutch shit after the Queen has died, okay? This is England, goddammit. You will walk.
Advance warning, royal period of mourning. This cycle rack will be closed from Friday, the September 8th to Wednesday, the 21st. For 13 days, they closed the bike rack. If you leave your bike here, it may be removed. They're going to steal your bike because the Queen died.
That's what I'm saying. It's that it's I guess it's 13 that period they listed there. There's all kinds of rules like that they've had in place for forever for when she died, and it's pretty crazy. But yeah, me and Corey were over there in May. And there are definitely people that are super into the Queen, but even a lot of younger people we talked to were they would be yeah, it's kind of silly, I guess, at this point, but she's all right. We didn't meet any British people or English people who were yeah, fuck all that shit. Really, they were at least sort of tepid on the matter.
The most tone deaf one I think I saw was you're talking about England having food shortages and cost of living crisis. Their economy is doing way worse than ours. If you wanted the general vibes over there are a food bank announced they were closing for the Queen's memorial. They're literally doing the Queen died, so you have to eat cake.
So no food for the peasants. Yeah.
Jesus
Can't have the peasants being fed after the Queen has died. It just just doesn't sit right.
I guess they got yelled at a bunch, so they opened the food bank back up. But you're talking about the backlash, dude. A Scottish dude got arrested for yelling at Prince Andrew, calling him a pedophile.
Yeah, fucking nonce, isn't he?
Yeah, he got the shit.
Nonce out of here.
He got the shit beat out of him by cops too. Other people just got arrested for being outside of Buckingham Palace, holding signs that said "abolish the monarchy." But nobody went in and had as much fun as the Irish. There was a soccer game where they sang this song for 5 full minutes. Hit it, Matt. Yeah.
Those soccer chants, man, have always impressed me because I'm always like, there's just one person. They're always so good with the harmony of it and everything and getting on board. And I'm always like, do they like workshop those at the tailgate or whatever? Like, I don't know. They're very creative, much more so than we are at our sporting events.
Irish drinking songs, man. The Star Spangled Banner was just new lyrics written over top of an Irish drinking song, I believe. But this other Irish people made like videos of them tap dancing in front of like we're doing well choreographed tap dances in front of Buckingham Palace, and like I don't have, to me she's like I don't believe in magic Meemaw blood. She's just an old lady who died, right? So I don't have any special feelings about it one way or the other, positive or negative. I'm just laughing at people's reactions to it. But
at 96 too, right?
Yeah,
like to me, that's also it's like she won. You can't have a much better run than she did. I guess unless you were Louis the 13th or whichever one it was still longer than her. She missed the record, so that's a shame. But yeah, it's like she was almost a fucking 100. How sad is anybody really supposed to be? I get she's also the queen, but come on.
Yeah, but this resulted in because people British people with big old manners. It's like, oh, the Irish are being uncouth or whatever. Like, I don't have as strong feelings about it as they do, but also I don't have a great granny who was sexually assaulted and murdered by Oliver Cromwell. So that might be a big difference to me. But it's resulted in people having to go on TV and try to explain to white news anchors what colonialism is, and it reminded me. It's like the British Crown's record is so fucking weird on this shit. Like, do you know what Section 377 is, Trae?
No.
So it's a code that they added to laws in their colonies that basically outlawed being gay, because countries like India and they don't have they didn't have Western senses of sexual weirdness, right? So nobody really cared. But then those laws are still in the books in those countries because they taught them to be homophobic. And then, so it's been a campaign the last few decades of the British, the Empire, the royal family going around trying to convince these countries to repeal their laws because England is now enlightened, whereas they are, the backwards colonies as they were the other way, but it's flipped now.
Yeah.
And you have these Anglican ministers in these former British colonies who are saying that that's now colonialism. Literally, guys in Caribbean countries in the Anglican white collars saying the Queen should fucking butt out of their business and let them be homophobic like good Christians. It's it's so weird and twisted. But they were leper colonies, a picture floating around Hong Kong. And it's Hong Kong was established as a British colony to funnel opium through from India to China. The Crown forced Indians to stop growing grain to grow poppies so they could get the Chinese hooked on opium. And they're using that story as how enlightened Queen Elizabeth was about colonialism.
Right.
It's Jesus Christ. And the weird thing was, I know you've heard of Lyndon LaRouche, right? The American crank conspiracy theorist who ran for president a bunch of times, including from prison. He had this conspiracy theory that the Queen ran the world drug trade. He thought she was like El Chapo. She ran all of it. Anyway, the Queen died on his birthday. So I just want to say that Lyndon LaRouche won. But another weird thing is American nationalists apparently love the monarchy now. Tucker Carlson did a fight. Look at this. British paved the way for democracy. What the fuck are you talking about?
By what? By pissing us off so much with all their monarchy shit that we warred them in 1776? I don't get that.
Me neither. I didn't even try to figure out what he was talking about, but they talked. Tucker Carlson did segments praising the British monarchy. So did Charlie Kirk on his show. And then last night, the funniest one, the New York Post put out a tweet that was that would link to a news story, was how the Emmys totally snubbed Queen Elizabeth in the in memoriam package. She wasn't on any fucking TV shows.
Yeah, but noted American television impresario Queen Elizabeth snubbed by the Emmys.
Olivia Colman played her on The Crown. That wasn't really the fucking Queen. She probably will be in the Oscars in memoriam montage because she was in Paddington too. But that's a different fucking award ceremony. Oh God, this whole thing drove me absolutely insane.
One last thing. I think it was you who sent in our group text. Apparently, at the actual venue for the UFC fight on Saturday, they called over the PA system for a moment of silence for Queen Elizabeth, and everybody started booing and doing a USA chant. USA. So that's so UFC-y and perfect.
Every American news anchor was on TV talking about death of the Queen. The Queen. We have the king is now spoken. I don't have a fucking king or a queen.
Right.
And if we're talking about other countries' kings and queens, there's more than just one.
Yeah.
Stop calling her the. It's just fucking annoying. It's like everyone stop being so weird. An old lady died. Her family's sad, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is questions for requiring stupid shit like actual answers. This is a state House candidate debate in Minnesota. The first guy speaking is a Republican candidate. Go ahead, Matt.
Yes or no?
Yes or no, please.
Sorry. Oh, so please clearly state yes or no, and then explain your answer in 1 minute.
Yeah, so, okay. Abortion, sorry. If you want.
Would you vote to restrict abortion in any way in Minnesota? Please state clearly yes or no, then explain your answer in 1 minute.
If this comes up, my abortion, I will vote. We need more nuance in this discussion. So I would say yes, abortion policy. So I just said yes.
Atiza Atun.
No.
That's pretty much the answer.
Yeah, she just clearly states, no, I would not vote to restrict abortion in the state of Minnesota. But yeah, that dude's like, is that I don't know if anyone remember this reference. Is that the fucking boom goes the dynamite guy? Do you remember that video, Mark? The kid who got thrust into being a sportscaster on the local news because the sports guy was sick. And he clearly was not ready for it. And he was like just mumbling throughout the whole thing during these basketball highlights. He was like, oh God. And then the guy hits a shot and he goes, and boom goes the dynamite. And it was just a shit show. But anyway, that's what that Republican candidate reminded me of, was the boom goes the dynamite kid.
he does look like that guy, but I don't think it's him. He's a first-time candidate as far as I can tell. And he's a lawyer for his day job. His name's Thomas Knecht, K-N-E-C-H-T. And the funny thing about this guy is
it's like him in front of a judge. Like, Your Honor, I think the evidence will. How do I say that? I feel like he definitely murdered the guy. If you look at the anyway, so if the jury wants to, maybe, I don't know. Sorry.
Does your client plead guilty or not guilty? Well, I mean,
it's
more nuance.
Yeah, it's more nuance than that.
So this guy absolutely really doesn't want to be talking about this. I don't think he cares much about this issue at all. He's been trying to do that old canard. This abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. And so, like, he doesn't want to be talking about this in like any sort of yes or no way, or really at fucking all. But this is a good example about how the Republicans are screwing themselves electorally on this, which brings us to the big abortion news of the day and Lindsey Graham. So Lindsey Graham, out of nowhere, without alerting any of his colleagues today, announced today that tomorrow is going to introduce a bill to have a national abortion ban at 15 weeks. There's a lot of bad stuff in this law. One of the weird ones is there's a rape exception for minors, but that only applies if the doctor gets documentation from law enforcement that a rape was reported. So Republicans want to make it the law that 10-year-olds are presumed to have consented to sex. Which is not going to make sense to a lot of people, I don't think. And that's why you don't want to be that guy, Thomas Knecht, trying to answer this question.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, so I know we're going to get into this, but I just like everything I had been hearing this whole time since Roe and all that has been that Republicans have been surprised at the amount of backlash and that they've been trying to like backpedal their stance and try to slow play it a little bit and not be as, hardcore about it because people were so pissed off. And and so now he comes out with this, which seems like the exact opposite to me. Like, I don't get this.
All right, well, let's talk about why he's probably doing this, okay? Because like we talked a few times a while back about how one reason like you just be aggressive in general is because you put your opponent on your back foot, and what a back foot looks like is arguing like how we think of Democrats usually arguing, which is like from a defensive couch and whatever. So the idea, I think he thinks he's playing chess, but he's playing a really stupid game of checkers here. They have polling data that says that people are more split in the question of 15 weeks as opposed to like 6 weeks and 4 weeks and stuff other states are doing, or absolute no exception bans. So he's trying to reframe the national debate around 15 weeks. But the thing is, and this is the case we keep making of where Democrats go wrong, is like public opinion isn't immutable. You should not be doing it. You should be making your case and try to change people's minds. But what he's trying to do, because what's going to happen when you have a 15-week ban, is you're going to get horror stories about shit that happens at 16, 17, 18 weeks. Right. For example, at this press conference, we couldn't find a good video where actually hear the woman really well, but a woman, I'm not clear whether she was a reporter or an activist, but she stood up and asked a question. She's like, well, at 16 weeks, my doctor told me my baby had a birth. We're going to skip this video, Matt. Sorry, because the quality, you can't hear what the woman's saying really, so I'll just describe it to you. She's like, at 16 weeks, my doctor told me my baby had a birth defect that would make it so he would not survive long past birth. If he had been born, he'd been bleeding out of, I don't want to get too physical, but the kid would have had a really short, miserable life. And he's basically, what would you do about my case? And he ran away from the question with some obfuscation bullshit that sounded like that Thomas Neck guy from before. So I think he's being too clever by half here, and it's really funny to me to see Republicans try to play these games as opposed to just making their case clearly and letting the chips fall where they may. If you really believe you should ban it, fucking introduce your bill and live and die by it, right?
Right, but they've been trying to do the whole, states' rights things, or back on that again. But yeah, I don't know. It's just up to the states, which is just like sort of their way. I feel like of trying to stay out of it, or whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, Graham had been the one saying we're going to leave it to the states, right? Mm-hmm. He'd been making that case clearly for a while, and all the other federal Republicans were still on that page until they started getting all this awful polling. And Matt said he got a hold of something. We can't go into details about it because they haven't released it yet, but it's pretty horrific for conservatives. But it doesn't really matter what Graham is trying to do from a national messaging standpoint when the states are going around being insane. For example, today, West Virginia passed a near total abortion ban. It has the same dumb shit where you have to go to a doctor and prove that a 10-year-old didn't consent, which is nonsense legal concept anyway.
Right.
And you got to get the documentation 48 hours before the procedure. It also creates additional restrictions for minors, including requiring that a guardian be notified, as well as an additional 48-hour waiting period. And this law, West Virginia only has one abortion clinic. They're making a whole law around one facility. That's how fucking gassed up they are. So my point is, it doesn't really matter what Lindsey Graham's going to say when these idiots are going to be doing this. And his colleagues seem to understand this intuitively. Like, here's some reactions here to show you how fast his colleagues ran away from him. John Cornyn, that wasn't a conference decision. It was an individual senator's decision. And his preference is leaving it to the states. Herschel Walker, someone asked him about that. He's running in Georgia. I believe the issue should be decided at the state level, but I would support this policy. He's supporting both Virginia and Lindsey Graham. He's tying them together. A guy named Joe Odea from Colorado. I don't support Senator Graham's bill. A Republican ban is reckless and tone deaf as Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer's hostility to compromise. So all I got to say is it doesn't really matter what you guys say because people see what you're doing. So too bad, motherfuckers. And by the way, as press conference today, sorry.
So like, he's trying to like reframe it as them having some semblance of sensibility or being reasonable about it, as opposed to like the total abortion bans in places like West Virginia. Yeah. It's like he's like, no, listen, we got a rational approach to the issue, and it's even-handed, and that's what we're really trying to do. That's what he thinks he's doing.
Yeah, national polling shows basically a 50-50 split on a 15-week ban, which he thinks it's a winning way to talk about the issue. But again, no one's argued about the 15-week ban yet. Right. Like, people's minds will be changed by facts once they see news stories. So like it's a nonsense poll that won't play. And also he fucked up real bad because he just cut a Democrat campaign ad for the midterms. at his speech today. Show this quick clip, Matt.
So I'll look forward to the debate. I'll look forward to the vote. If we take back the House and the Senate, I can assure you we'll have a vote on our bill. If the Democrats are in charge, I don't know if we'll ever have a vote on our bill. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over.
Right. so
He just said it.
Right. So if you're not into this, maybe don't vote for us, because this is 100% what we're going to do if given the opportunity to. Even though we know so many people hate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll give it to him. At least he's being honest. He's the only honest one. Mitch McConnell was asked about this and said he doesn't think the bill should get a vote. We know if the Republicans retake the Senate, Mitch McConnell would have this vote and pass it in like 3 seconds. They do it while killing the filibuster. So I guess I'll give it to Lindsay for that. So yeah.
Right on. Okay. Well, moving on. Let's talk about 9/11, I suppose, with another honorable mention for Daily Dumbass, and that's Muhammad Atta for not believing in this great country, at least according to Herschel Walker. Who else? Play that clip, Matt, if you got it.
Well, you got to pay tribute to the 9/11 victims, but also you saw America come together. You saw America come together because this country was, it was on the war with a country that didn't believe in us. And right now we have leaders in Washington like Joe Biden doing venomous speeches that doesn't believe in American people. He tried to. So
Joe Biden's basically Al Qaeda because he don't believe in us.
Yeah. I can't. But whoever's making him run for Senate still, this is a form of abuse, and I don't know why you're doing it to him. It's obvious that Herschel Walker's brain is mush from football, and
got the mush brain.
Yeah, I would say it's wrong to make fun of him, but he's trying to become a senator, so they can't be punching down definitionally, right?
No, for sure.
God. I will say this. That if I was Herschel Walker, I would not look into 9/11 any further. So he's probably the happiest person in the world because he doesn't know anything about it. Yeah.
So, but not everyone responds to 9/11 or the anniversary thereof with this type of decorum, Mark. Everybody has their own way of processing it. One example would be this Virginia seafood restaurant who, in advance of 9/11, debuted a brand new themed menu. A 9/11 themed menu featuring offerings such as Freedom Flounder, Flight 93 Redirect Crab Dip. That one's a little clunky in my opinion. I might have workshopped that one a little bit more. Pentagon Pie, 9/11 Oysters. That one's a little on the nose. First Responder Flatbread and the 2977 Chowder, which is a nod to the number of people who died on 9/11, 2,977. I wonder what they didn't go with. It's like Freedom Tower of onion rings, Twin Towers of onion rings. You know what I mean? We got a ground 0 calorie raspberry tea for the kiddies if you're watching your weight. Yeah, this is something else.
Towers. We should be noted here, this person wasn't trying to be flippant or funny. They were seriously trying to honor the 9/11 victims with the seafood menu. And look at that silly little dancing clip art crab.
Dude, stuff like this has come up on the show a few times before, and it's always so wild to me, the stuff that gets the ideas that people have and then follow through with. You know what I mean? I know this is just like a sole proprietor of a seafood restaurant in Virginia, but still, he ain't got nobody he's bouncing stuff off of. Like, somebody put these graphics together for him. Like, at no point was anybody like, I don't know about that, Bob. maybe go with something else than the Flight 93 Redirect Hot Crab Dip.
After this guy got yelled at on his Facebook page, he did apologize, as the headline says, and he changed the menu, and the Flight 93 Redirect Crab Dip is now become the Hot Defense Crab Dip, and the chowder became the Champs Chowder, and the flounder became the Fumble Flounder. So football theme probably was more better for football season at a seafood restaurant. 9/11. Oh God, I can't. The extent to which all of Bin Laden's biggest dreams came true is just good. Like all this, he absolutely broke everyone's brains. destroyed their country. We evaporated $7 trillion in wealth, and started the crumbling empire. And a good example of this is a hero of 9/11, Rudy Giuliani, celebrated 9/11 by committing to speak at a QAnon conference, QAnon John. So yeah, the lead's really into Rudy's brain.
Yeah.
A brief Q update I want to do off the back of this. There was a guy killed his wife, shot his daughter after being sucked down a Q rabbit hole. Basically, guy named Igor Lanis went crazy after 2020. Started believing Trump's election lies that led him to 5G cell tower conspiracy theories, stuff about vaccines, and started believing people were lizard people. And then he shot his wife, dog, and his daughter. And then he got killed by cops when they showed up, and he shot at them. So this stuff is still out there destroying people's brains. And I don't know what to do about it except warn people about it and keep an eye on your relatives.
Yeah, that's
pretty
crazy all around.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a couple of more real quick. Honorable mention for Daily Dumbass. Anybody who thought that the conservatives were being too mean to us all. Turns out it's the exact opposite problem, at least according to Nikki Haley. It's Nikki Haley, right?
Yeah.
Is it that the media will give this guy with the most radical positions of any candidate I've ever seen a free pass for this election?
We're talking about John Fetterman.
Look, I have said it for too long, Sean. Republicans are too nice. Because
all right.
all they do is whine and complain, and we don't.
You get it.
It should be noted they're talking about John Fetterman, and Dr. Oz is sitting right next to her on the screen, not in real life, but he's on the split screen with her. And Dr. Oz, just in the last week, has called John Fetterman a stroke victim who deserved it because he's fat. So
I know that's what I'm saying. It's like what is their version of like being a dick? Like if they've been holding it back, reining it in this whole time. Like when the gloves come off, Jesus Christ, what are they going to say? I mean, just besides just the N-word, obviously, but like they're just going to go straight to just hardcore slurs and death threats, baby. That's the only direction I see it could go. They need to crank it up a notch.
It's already 80% death threats. I'm not sure what the hell else they could do. You know, it's they could actually go for it. I mean, they tried to kidnap a governor, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
they tried to storm Congress. I don't know what the fuck.
And our last honorable mention for Daily Dumbass. Anybody who thought the scourge of kitten kids was over with? No, still going strong, according to who else? Miss Boebert.
I was in Michigan, and a man told me that his son got in trouble because he stepped on a furry's tail in school. And I said, well, I don't think, what's a furry? I've never seen one. We got bears, we got wolves, praise the Lord, thanks Boulder. We got eagles. What's a furry? And he said, well, it's someone who thinks they're a cat or a dog. I said, dear Lord, that sounds like an identity crisis. I think your son needs to go to school and identify as a trapper.
Applause break.
I was in Michigan.
Applause break on the trapper bit.
Not a poorly constructed joke, but I do want to say here what she's advocating here is for one kid to murder two other kids.
Yeah.
But I do like this furry lie that I can't explain the degree to which that conversation never happened.
I know. We've talked about it before on the show, and it's like, and I just, Katie, my wife, just like literally last night or the night before, brought it up because she was seeing it on Facebook, like in some of her like back home Wayne County Facebook people they were talking about it there, and she was reading me these comments. They were saying, it's like, I know somebody who works in the school, and she says that there's like 15 kids who demand to use litter boxes and all this stuff or whatever. And Katie's just like, she's like, these people know that they're making this up, or you know what I mean? It's like, this just isn't true, especially in fucking, she's from like the border, South Tennessee, North Alabama. It's like, they're not fucking, that's not, even in Portland, junior high kids are not pissing in litter boxes. You know what I mean? But like, let alone, but they're acting like it's just it's a nationwide phenomenon. It's insane.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with this type of stuff because it's so fake, but so many people believe it, even though like they don't. No one knows anybody firsthand who saw this or did it.
Right.
It's just like game of telephone stuff about made up bullshit. And a lot of the stuff, all you got to do is just like go talk to a regular person. You can go down to your local school and like talk to the kids if you want.
Do some research, Mark. Now, that's the problem. They are doing research. The research is reading on Facebook how it's really happening. Getting firsthand accounts, that's sheep shit. You got to do the real research there on the internet. Matt says that the way she leans on the pulpit when she preaches is triggering for him because he went to Bible college.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Ukraine, Mark. What do you say?
All right. So, yeah, Corey brought it up last week, and I've realized that we haven't talked about it in a while. And then this happened late last week, and it was pretty awesome. So, if you had this video clip, Matt, set us up.
He's got it. Here it comes.
Ukrainian forces marking massive victories in the northeast. Their troops now controlling the strategic military hub of Izium, which was occupied by Russian forces for months. Now, videos circulating online show abandoned Russian tanks and military equipment littering the area. Ukrainian soldiers raising their flag once again over the city. It's a massive blow for Putin. And across a large swathe of territory, troops liberating dozens of towns and villages in video released by the Ukrainian military. Emotional scenes, civilians greeting.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit last week about like why Corey hadn't heard much about it recently, and what that was about. And it's basically they've been a stalemate for a while, but Ukraine was considering an offensive, but were worried about what would happen if it backfired politically with Western relief and whatever. But then they just went ahead and did it and said, fuck it, let's be legends, to recapture like 1,000 square miles or something, which isn't, it's just like maybe 10% of what Russia's taken since 2014. But they also captured like enough tanks and weaponry to outfit 20 brigades. They took a bunch of POWs, a bunch of Russians deserted in pretty hilarious fashion. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they totally broke Russian lines. It's not really clear. They took a bunch of railroad depots. Russia had as their sole means of resupply. Clear what the Russians do from here, other than keep making Ukrainians' lives miserable by harassing the air and with artillery.
Right.
They did. Russia, after Ukraine recaptured those towns they've been holding, they blew up the power plants that supplied them. Just as throwing a fit, just to torture the civilian populations. And Zelensky gave this pretty Independence Day speech where directly to Russia that said, "Read my lips, without gas or without you, without you, without light or without you, without you, without water or without you, without you, without food or without you, without you. Cold, hunger, darkness, and thirst are not as scary and deadly for us as your friendship and brotherhood." So basically, fuck you, your labels a motherfucking crew.
He's a pretty ice cold motherfucker, that Zelensky, I gotta say. They've been keeping it pretty gangster since day one, from what I could tell. That's a pretty hard statement right there.
It's pretty weird. Like, people are sort of like, it's tough to read the tea leaves what goes on inside Russia, because obviously even a dictator needs a certain amount of public support, or people can just drag him out of his caste and kill him. Which is like the Chechens who've been fighting in Ukraine as an ally are threatening to quit because they don't know what the plan or the point is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And like, freed Ukrainians, I do want to say here, have a little bit more grace than I would in a lot of cases. Like, they had this interview with this lady who was like, they were not monsters, they were kids, she said. She once asked Russian troops to move the tank they parked in front of her house. What a weird neighborhood that is. Hey, trying to get my paper, your tank's in the way. Oh, sorry, man. I asked what they wanted from us, and they said, we can either be here or we can be in jail. They're conscripts. They're like, so I do think some of them. So, some of them obviously go there and become war criminals. Some of them just go there and are trying to buy their time so they can get out. For example, on the bad side, in that same town, the troops had a standing order for the Ukrainians they occupied to be in their house by 6 p.m. and have their lights out and be quiet. And these guys had the lights on drinking, and they just executed them. As far as the actual escape, the fleeing, Russian troops aren't getting paid. They're not getting fed very well. They're not well equipped. So they literally couldn't run fast enough. Half the soldiers fled in their vehicles in the first hours. The people that were stranded grew desperate. Some residents overheard them on the radios pleading to unit commanders for someone to come get them. They said, "You're on your own." They came into our houses to take clothes so the drones wouldn't see them in uniforms. They took our bicycles. Here's a guy, they're stealing clothes off fucking laundry racks and stealing bikes and peddling their way back to Russia. This is not a war that's going well for them.
Right. Sounds like a bit of a quagmire to me. You know, they're just going to hang around for forever now.
Historians
they
disagree
can't admit defeat or whatever, you know, but they also can't win it. So it's just like you said, just make everybody's lives miserable for as long as possible and just continue to fuck everything up.
It reminded me of historians that disagree whether this actually happened. I think most think it's apocryphal, but the old story about Jefferson Davis after the South collapsed, he was fleeing in his wife's dress when they caught him. Sort of reminded me of that. So Ukraine might be going for the full win, which would mean taking back Donbas, which has been a civil war since in Crimea, which Russia took into a long, hard-fought war for years.
Right,
but they might be too high on their own supply. It might be a bad idea to drag it on that long.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know shit. I'm very war dumb. You know, this particular conflict, you know, I what do I know? But yeah, I kind of thought the same thing when I saw that. It's like, good for them. I'm glad shit's going well. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. But like, take what you can get. Just try to fucking get the thing done. But again, that's easy for me to say. It ain't my land or my people.
That's it. That's not like the group of people I've been most frustrated with. And I consider myself pretty solidly left wing, but like, the people that think this is just a Russia, like a CIA proxy war with Russia, just to weaken it or whatever. It's like the only reason Ukrainians are fighting and dying for their land, protecting their families, is because of CIA propaganda. It's like, fuck no, they're fighting for their own reasons, their own purposes, and it's really, we can stop giving the weapons if we wanted to. I would be against that, because I think that wars of invasion and conquest are bad. They're bad when we did it, and they're bad when fucking Russia did it. And there's a lesson here for the larger world. It's that invading and occupying armies are basically over since World War II. Mm-hmm. We keep doing the same fucking dumb shit. And I don't know. I just think people they're agitating for Ukraine. People were agitating for them to surrender the day this happened. It's like Ukrainians are not going to fucking surrender, man. They're fucking mad. You heard that speech Zelensky gave to Putin.
Yeah.
And speaking of Putin, what has Putin been up to? Well, while this was happening, he was at the grand unveiling of, I think, a Ferris wheel. For the moment, the Kremlin is sticking of defeats in business as usual in Susan. I can never say that word, by Mr. Putin, who has Russian lines buckled on Saturday in the Kharkiv region, inaugurated a giant Ferris wheel in Moscow Park. Reports from social media said the wheel quickly broke down, leading right to
Yeah, the ending of that is just perfect. It's funny enough that's what he's there, you know, ribbon cutting a fucking Ferris wheel in the middle of all this. But then the fact that the Ferris wheel breaks down is just that's some chef's kiss shit right there for sure.
Yeah, it's moments like that I believe there is a God, because like the some poor suckers who were there testing the Ferris wheel out be stuck at the top because of Vladimir Putin's fuck ups and incompetence. It's sort of a metaphor for the whole war,
right?
So what's going on domestically in Russia is pretty interesting, even though we can't really gauge it, because like people point to public opinion polling in Russia as if that matters, because if a state media outlet calls you to ask if you support your murderous dictator, what are you going to say?
Right. And also just the propaganda that they all get fed and everything constantly anyway, coupled with what you just said. It's like, you know, fucking you can't be talking shit publicly. That's how you get fucking defenestrated, you know, get thrown out a goddamn window. So, I mean,
which has been happening, by the way.
Of course. Putin loves defenestration, dude. He loves throwing people out windows.
I think it was a couple weeks ago, one guy fell out of a hospital window, which is a very common thing that happens. I was an oligarch. Another oligarch died last week when he fell off his yacht, which of course happens. That's how Ghislaine Maxwell's dad died. So it's a very common thing to fall off your yacht and die when you're involved in international intrigue. Another oligarch publicly had to surrender all his assets to the state or sell them all like for pennies on the dollar a couple weeks ago. So he's been I'm not sure if he's getting pushback, but he's worried about it.
Right.
And like 18 people, probably more was made of this than is meaningful, but it is something that 18 municipal officials around Moscow signed a letter calling on Putin to resign. So it'd be like the LA City Council asked Joe Biden to resign. It doesn't really matter a whole lot, but it's still something to speak out. They were, of course, immediately arrested for insulting the military. but the military collapse happened so fast that the Kremlin didn't have any sort of talking points. They couldn't figure out what to say. So like the state media apparatus was left on their own, and filibustering, they were left with nothing but to be honest and talk about how the war's a disaster.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny to me. It's like I got jack shit to say. I guess this isn't going well. Fuck it. It's like yeah.
So before we wrap up here and move to comments, I did want to say we have a video, but it's like 2+ minutes long. But it's their UN ambassador for Ukraine, who's also a G, he's been a soundbite machine as well. And it was him doing that again, saying that, the thing you got to understand about Russians is that many of them suffer from delusions. They see things that aren't there. They hear things that aren't there, and they need help, but it's not the kind of help that we can give them on the floor of this. They need to be basically just saying, that they're all crazy and delusional and don't hit, which I appreciated. But also, after everything we've just talked about, we want to revisit a brief clip from Tucker Carlson from about 2 weeks ago. Matt, you can play that one if you got it.
This is great.
And then Mark, if you got anything else on Ukraine, hit us with it. Otherwise, we will wrap up here in a minute with some comments.
Is calling for an unconditional surrender from Vladimir Putin. Here's the weird thing. By any actual reality-based measure, Vladimir Putin is not losing the war in Ukraine. He is winning the war in Ukraine. And Joe Biden looks at that and says, we won't stop until you proffer an unconditional surrender. This isn't bad policy. This is nuts. It makes no sense. In fact, it only makes sense if the goal is to completely destroy the West in order to make way for Chinese global dominance.
Sure. Sure, right. You can see how that would be, Joe Biden's ulterior motive.
The thing is, like, we're supposed to be the ones who hate America, right? And I've got my problems with it.
Right.
But like we talked earlier about Tucker has done segments this week defending the British monarchy against criticisms from people who like democracy, and now he's gone all in for Putin. It's like, what do these guys fucking believe in? Just power? I mean,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, they'd love an authoritarian dictatorship. As long as the dictator in question was, their boy, they'd be all for it. Fascism hits for a lot of people. It's like, please just tell me what to do.
Please just tell. Tucker's more like, please just tell other people what to do.
Oh yeah, well no, I mean really, yes, really, that's what it is. That it's like everything that I think is how everything should be. So we really need somebody in place that crushes any opposition to that with brute force and rules with an iron fist.
If you got freedom, somebody might have the idea to have a drag queen story hour, and somebody might want to go to it. Then that's fucking chaos. You can't have it. It's the most important threat to you.
Thank you, Debbie Lynn. Debbie Lynn Robinson says, hit that like button, everybody. Please do. Hit the like button. Tell your friends. Share. Leave a 5-star review on the podcast version. All that good stuff. We would appreciate it. Toby Kuzman says, what does Mark's hat say?
See you out there. It's a company that makes like redneck surfing apparel that I like.
Well, that's fun.
I don't surf, but I do like going to the beach.
Yeah.
You ever tried surfing, Trae?
No, never. I've, fucking whatever, body and boogie boarded and shit in Florida, that type of thing. I love water shit. I mean, I grew up on a lake town, so no surfing, but I loved like any of that stuff, anything involving a boat, but no, never even tried surfing. No, I did, dude. The water out here is too goddamn cold for me. Yeah. I didn't know that before I moved here. Shocked the shit out of me. It's a real, I don't know. It's a fool's gold. All them shots of the beautiful beaches in Southern California you see in movies and stuff, because you will freeze your ass off if you try to go swimming.
If you guys never swam in the Pacific, there's a reason everybody you'll see on TV swim in the ocean is wearing a wetsuit. It's because it's cold as shit. It's like,
apparently it's like a current that comes down from Alaska straight down the West Coast or something, makes it cold as fuck. But
something like that.
It's not fun.
Yeah, I can't even stand up paddleboard. My balance is so fucking bad. I didn't realize it about myself. I knew I couldn't skateboard when I was a kid, but I never thought about it too hard. Then I tried to do stand-up paddleboarding. Married, and I busted my ass on the paddleboard and lost a pair of sunglasses to the bottom of my Gulf. You find a pair of Ray-Bans, in the Gulf off Treasure
I've
Island.
lost so many fucking pairs of sunglasses on boats in my life. Kim Avery says, "You a tuber, Trae?" Oh yeah, we were big tubers. Every now and then, you know, bust out a wakeboard or something, but we mostly just sat our fat asses on the tube and got pulled. You know, the goal is to throw your buddy off in the most, you know, possibly painful way possible or whatnot. But yeah,
there's a
love
big
all that shit.
festival in a little town where I'm from called Float Day. It's basically like 10,000 rednecks go and float down a river for like 8 hours, and then they
Yeah.
got like trucks that'll haul you back to your cars. And me and my buddies, I guess it was in college. And my high school buddies went during the summer, and they had tied our stuff to the boat. We hit little rapids, and we flipped it, and we lost all our beers and our wallets and our keys.
Yeah.
An hour into this 8-hour float, and
Right.
then I was in a tube tied to the back of a canoe, and my buddies, because it was my fault the shit got untied, as a little bit of a revenge prank, untied me, and they went way ahead. So I floated by myself for the last 6 hours of this, begging beers off people passed me by.
So they do that again. I grew up on a lake, so different, but where Katie grew up, they do a lot of float. They call it floating the buffalo. There's a river down there called the Buffalo. You float the buffalo. Huge thing. We went there one day on Father's Day. The whole family is like, we're gonna go out and do that. But my sons at the time were like 3 and 4. I mean, they were little, and I was like, you know, are they big enough? And Katie's like, oh, it's like a lazy river. We got there. You rent canoes to do it in. Every one of the canoes in our group got flipped at least once. The children were terrified most of the time. My father-in-law killed a snake with an oar in the middle of the trip, and then it came a wrath of God thunderstorm right as we were coming down the end of it. But it was way more intense than a lazy river. I had a great time, but it was wild. When we left, the boys were upset, and I told them, I was like, "You were never in any danger." And Bishop goes, "No. At the end, that was danger." So yeah. Aaron McCullough says, "Any thoughts on the John Fetterman social media dominance of Dr. Oz? I enjoy Fetterman's TikToks."
I'm not on TikTok. I see some of the stuff on Twitter. But like, so I think we talked about this a while back, but like in general, it's beyond a social media strategy. It's you don't engage, like you wouldn't debate a maniac, right? Because the person doesn't mean or understand anything they're saying. There's no point engaging in the merits. You're debating someone like Dr. Oz, who's a scamming, lying scumbag, who's not even from your state. You don't engage with him. You just treat him like a fucking dumb clown.
Right.
So that's the part that's like that works for me. It's what Trump did to the Republican primary field, and it worked.
Yeah.
Because nobody thinks Marco Rubio is a serious person. Why fucking treat him like he means what he says? Just call him a dumb asshole and move on with your life. And so like I think a little bit more of that, because either a person's of substance or they aren't. And like until they nominate people of substance, don't bother debating with them.
Yeah, I've been digging it. I love everything Fetterman's doing. He's fucking great and really like sort of not exposing because people already know, but really illustrating just how much of a, you know, fraudulent clown Dr. Oz is in so many ways. It's pretty sweet. Laura Borealis, like that name, says, "I just bought tickets to one of the Zany shows. Can't wait." Yeah, those are always fun. Those are well-read shows. Me, Corey, and Drew were at Zany's before Christmas every year. Big homecoming deal. Everybody's mama and cousins and everybody comes out. They don't get on stage. Don't worry about that. But it's always a hell of a good time. So yeah, those are some of the best ones there. So
and I do want to say that Laura Borealis would be an amazing roller derby name.
Yeah, it's great. That's a fantastic name. I dig it. So yeah, okay. Well, listen, on that note, I guess I'll say once again, go to TraeCrowder.com, check out the dates and the shows. Again, I'm constantly adding more. I've got a lot of messages about Texas. Trust me, Texas is coming. We're actively working on Texas right now. It'll be 2023. But yeah, I'm adding a bunch of dates for 2023. They'll be, you know, doing it all the time. So come out and see me or us, as the case may be, me, Corey, and Drew. And then also consider signing up on Patreon, weeklyskews.com/more. Or look me up on Patreon. You get some bonus episodes, support the show, $5 a month. It's all pretty sweet. We sure do love and appreciate you. One more time, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Do all that internet shit you're supposed to do. We appreciate you all continuing to show up and skew with us each and every week. And we'll see you in 7 days.